Okay, so today I will be analysing the poem I Find No Peace by Sir Thomas Wyatt. Okay, so the deep meaning. We are presented with the internal conflict of human nature, which is that we always want what we do not have. Even if we do get what we want, we are never truly satisfied, and that is something that the poet tries to convey in the poem. So the entire poem is one stanza long, but I've just divided it up into two sections. I find no peace, and all my war is done. I fear and hope, I burn and freeze like ice. I fly above the wind, yet can I not arise. And naught I have, and all the world I season. That loseth nor locketh, holdeth me in prison, and holdeth me not, yet can I scape no wise, nor letteth me live nor die at my device, and yet of death it giveth me occasion. So we have the use of binary oppositions, peace, war, and then fear versus hope, burn versus freeze. Placing these oppositions, these opposing extremes together, conveys the impression that the speaker swings wildly from one position to another and is never content in his emotional state. I find no peace and all my war is done. This is a paradox. It is as though the speaker needs conflict, he needs war in order to fulfill some sort of psychological need. The speaker expresses his conflicted feelings through the use of contrast, oxymoron, and paradox. And these are devices which are quite frequent throughout the poem. His emotions are a blend of complex colours rather than simple black and white. This explains why the speaker finds it so difficult to attain a state of satisfaction and contentment. The poet indicates that we bring existential unhappiness and disappointment down upon ourselves. This is seen in even the title, I Find No Peace. In order to find peace, one must search for it, and the very action of searching makes a state of peace or rest quite impossible. So the poet presents us with the fundamental irony, which is that an inescapable part of the human condition, and how people act against their own interest without even knowing that what they're doing. So we have dark and depressing diction, which locketh, holdeth, which becomes darker when the speaker turns to death. So we have the reference to death and then die. And the speaker turns to death as an escape from his symbolic prison. However, even through death, he seems to find no possibility of respite. He seems to be unable to ever find peace. And this is something that we'll look at in the next section. Without iron I see, and without tongue I plain. I desire to perish, and yet I ask health. I love another, and thus I hate myself. I feed in me sorrow, and laugh in all my pain. Likewise displeaseth me both life and death, and my delight is causer of this strife. So the speaker seems unable to exercise his own right of choosing his destiny. Instead, he is subject to human survival instincts, as even when dying seems preferable to a life of sorrow and pain, people strive for self-preservation, as seen as in I desire to perish, and yet I ask for health. It is human nature to to ask for survival, to ask for health. So he can never escape this internal conflict. And this is a paradox. We see a tone of resignation in the speaker as life and death become the same to him. They are likewise displeasing, as seen in this fifth line of this section. He is so exhausted by his internal conflict that he no longer wishes to live, and he also no longer wishes to die. He's just stuck in this in-between. The speaker's attitude towards love is what creates his misery. He also acknowledges, so when he says, I love another and thus I hate myself. And then I feed in me sorrow and laugh in all my pain. He is acknowledging here that he is lacking reason to feel such misery, to feel such sorrow, as he laughs at his suffering, as it is clearly without reason and logic, as he has not even revealed his affections, thus highlighting the conflict of human nature. Even when we know that what we are feeling is illogical, we cannot help but feel the way we do. It is just human. And then we have the use of half rhyme. Health and myself. It's not a true, like the TH and the LF they don't give a full rhyme. So what this does is it creates tension and discomfort, which implies that something isn't quite right here, echoing the psychological state of the speaker. And then the final rhyme of the poem, death and strife, you could argue that it doesn't even rhyme, so it's even weaker than the previous one. And ending the poem with such a weak sounding rhyme suggests despair. After all he's been through, the speaker is unable to find a solution to the paradox of his conflicting desires. He is unable to find that peace. Okay, so now for the topic areas that I would use if this poem were to come up in the exam. So first I'd focus on the use of conflicting images to show constant dissatisfaction. For the second topic area, I'd focus on the way the speaker turns towards death as a release, but finds that even in death he cannot escape this constant dissatisfaction. And for the final topic area, his despair as he realizes that there is no solution for his internal conflict. It is just human nature. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was helpful.